Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to talk about walls of orbits. So let's start our topic with introduction. Orbit is a bony cavity in skull that houses the eyeball, extraocular muscles, vessels, nerves and other supporting structures. It is a pyramidal in shape with its apex directed posteriorly and its base anteriorly at the orbital margin. The orbit is formed by seven bones: frontal bone, sphenoid bone, zygomatic bone, maxilla, palatine bone, lacrimal bone, and ethmoid bone. Its wall, that include roof, floor, medial wall, and lateral wall, provide protection and support for the eye. Walls of orbit include roof of the orbit, floor of the orbit, medial wall of the orbit, lateral wall of the orbit, and apex of the orbit. So first is roof of the orbit. It is formed by orbital plate of frontal bone that forms the major portion of it, and lesser wing of sphenoid that is present posteriorly near the apex. Important features in the roof of orbit include fossa for lacrimal gland that is present at the anterior lateral part, and it also has trochlear fossa that is present at the anterior medial part for the trochlea of superior oblique muscle. It separates the orbit from anterior cranial fossa and frontal lobe of brain. Second wall of orbit is floor of the orbit. It is formed by orbital surface of maxilla that form the major portion of the floor of the orbit. It is formed by zygomatic bone that is present laterally and palatine bone that gives small contribution posteriorly. Important features in the floor of orbit include it contains the infraorbital groove and canal for transmitting the infraorbital nerve and vessel. It separates the orbit from the maxillary sinus. It is relatively thin that is prone to blowout fracture where orbital contents herniate into the maxillary sinus. Third wall of orbit is medial wall of the orbit that is formed by a frontal process of maxilla that is present at the anterior part of the medial wall of the orbit, and lacrimal bone, an orbital plate of ethmoid bone that form the major portion of the medial wall of the orbit, and also body of sphenoid bone that is present posteriorly. Important features in the medial wall of orbit include is that it is very thin wall. It separates orbit from ethmoidal air cells. It contains anterior and posterior ethmoidal foramina that transmit ethmoidal vessels and nerves. It has lacrimal fossa in the lacrimal bone that houses the lacrimal sac. Fourth wall of orbit is lateral wall of orbit that is formed by zygomatic bone that is present anteriorly and greater wing of sphenoid bone that is present posteriorly. Important features in the lateral wall of orbit are it is that it is thickest and strongest wall of the orbit. It separates the orbit from the temporal fossa and middle cranial fossa. Zygomaticofacial and zygomaticotemporal foramina are present in the zygomatic bone here. Next is the apex of the orbit that is located posteriorly at the optic canal in the lesser wing of sphenoid bone. It transmits optic nerve and ophthalmic artery. It serves as an entry point for neurovascular structures. Clinical significance of walls of orbit. First is blowout fracture, as the orbital floor and medial wall are thin and prone to fracture in trauma that often lead to herniation of orbital contents. Second significance is orbital infection, as medial wall thinness allows spread of sinus infection into the orbits. Third significance is tumor, as lesions from paranasal sinuses or intracranial spaces may easily invade the orbit. Conclusion of this lecture video. Orbital wall are complex structures that are formed by seven skull bones. The roof protects the eye from above and houses the lacrimal gland. Floor is thin and related to the maxillary sinus. Medial wall is the thinnest and separates the orbit from ethmoidal air cells. And the lateral wall is thickest, providing major protection. Understanding these walls is crucial in ophthalmology, neurosurgery, and trauma care. And this was all about walls of the orbits. Hopefully you like the video. If you do, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you for watching.